Yeah, because you posed in the chat.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to save time, you can just answer that. I mean, basically, I was trying to ask Peter how concerned you are about the sort of emerging labor unrest, particularly now in the medical field. The doctors are threatening to go on strike from tomorrow. Although there is a pay increase, that the increase is less than the reduction of their allowances. So this is something that affects a lot of not just the medical sector. So how concerned are you that this kind of growing unrest, labor unrest, how it will affect the overall IMF-backed program?
Peter, do you want to take another question? So they're free. So I think
well,
Indira is next.
Actually, Nanda, it feels like there's a bunch of questions. Should we try and answer these?
Okay, sounds good.
Otherwise, we lose track.
Okay, sounds good.
Maybe Katja can speak to the Economic Transformation Act and also to the central bank question. So on this important question with respect to the potential for unrest, well, I suppose there is potential, but I think what really should be remembered is that this budget really sought to address some of the concerns that the government and ourselves have heard. That civil servants have been concerned about the wages that they have been receiving, and so there is, for the first time in a long time, an increase in civil service wages, while at the same time the personal income tax regime is being changed and reducing personal income taxes considerably, at least for some income earners, including civil servants. You have to remember who are the ones who earn an income and pay taxes. That really is the upper 20% of income earners in Sri Lanka. There has been a massive crisis in 2022 with huge costs to the population of Sri Lanka. And in order for the government to keep on providing the essential services that the citizens of Sri Lanka expect the government to provide, and in order to bring along the poorer segments of society, everyone who can needs to make a sacrifice. This is how the society can pull together and continue to function. And so I think we all know how painful this crisis has been. There's no doubt about it. We have traveled around the country. We have met with many people. The plantation workers in Nuora Eliya have shown us their income statements and their bills, and it was very, very clear that this is a very severe crisis. But how else to address it? So sticking with the reforms is really the best way out for Sri Lanka to assure its sustainability. And I think it's important for everyone in Sri Lanka to recognize that. If you put it into the broader perspective, the adjustment, this is the last budget where there is still a bit of an increase in revenue is needed, 1.5 percentage points of GDP, but all the hard adjustment has already taken place in the previous 2 years. Revenue have increased 5 percentage points of GDP over the last 2 years. This is, the last sort of big push, not quite as big as in the previous years. And thereafter, it'll be much easier going forward. So on the cars, I mean that's yeah, that's a specific question. Is there some import substitution? I can't answer that. I would assume that after 5 years or so of a ban of imported cars, that there will be some demand for finished cars from overseas. I do take your point that it's possible that that there may be some assembly of cars domestically. Katja, can you answer the other two questions, please?
Sure. So on the economic transformation bill, we understand there was a recent announcement that the new government will propose amendments to the bill. And so we look forward to reviewing the amended economic transformation bill. We expect it to be consistent with program objectives, including, for example, with the authorities' commitment to refrain from granting tax incentives until the SDP Act is revised to provide clear and transparent criteria on the granting of tax incentives. On the central bank securities, I understand the question was that the central bank has sold T-bills, but has a stock of unmarketable bonds. This is correct. And under the program at this point, because there's no market for this, restructured bonds, we do not envision the unwinding of the stock over the next 12 months. You can see it in the program targets in table 1 on page 95 of the published report under the category of net credit to the government. I hope that answers the question if I understood it correctly.
So, yeah. I'm trying to find out what's the alternative. If you want to sterilize the inflows, I mean, kind of issuing central bank security or something, because you have reserve target.
So is this more than a question about the operation of monetary policy and how to sterilize reserve accumulation? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you no longer have the T-bills to sell. What is the alternative? Securities they can sell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand. Thank you so much for clarifying. Yeah, so there are many alternatives that the central bank can use. For example, they can engage in repo operations or also issue their own securities. But I guess what is important to highlight for your question is that the central bank so far has been able to meet the inflation target. And if anything, they're a little bit undershooting, as you saw with the breach of the MPCC clause in June and in December. So in that sense, the central bank is quite effective in terms of reaching the inflation objectives, and we think the tools they have in their hands should be enough.
Thank you, Katja. We have more questions. Peter, we have Indica first, please.
Hi, Randa, thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, my question to Peter is, in the budget, there is a budget proposal to recruit about 30,000 people to the public sector. So we already have a bloated public sector in the country. So what's IMF's opinion on that? And the other question is on the electricity, the price reflective electricity tariffs. So we were under the impression that that is already happening because the government is already adjusting prices periodically. But in the press release that was released on Friday, they have sort of insinuated that Sri Lanka has deviated. What is the situation there? Thank you.
Peter, we can take a couple more questions this round. Odita?
Thank you so much, Randa. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Great. I just have one question. Peter, could you please outline what are the key goalposts that Sri Lanka has to hit as it moves forward to the 4th review now, right? And when will there be an IMF delegation coming to Colombo? Thank you.
Can take, there are 2 questions in the chat, Peter. One from Dinesh Anthony. Why was the proposed property tax under the IMF program withdrawn, and why wasn't the existing under-taxed council tax system rebased instead? How much revenue was expected from the input rental tax, and why couldn't this be raised adjusting council taxes? This is from Dinesh from Ceylon Daily News. There's another one we can take, or that's enough for now, this round.
Yeah, why don't we get going with these ones?
Yeah,
thank you.
because Shihar already had his chance at the beginning, so let's take a different group now. Thank you.
So thanks so much for these questions. So I mean, on the size of the public sector, that's really not for us to judge. The government needs to sort of identify the resources it needs to provide the services that it's expected to provide, and do all of that within the envelope of the program. So there may be other institutions, the World Bank, for example, that can provide some more assistance, technical assistance, to help with making the government as efficient as possible. But I don't really have a comment there. The electricity tariffs. So there was a reduction in the electricity tariffs in January, and this is when we feel that the cost reflective pricing was no longer met, because on a forward-looking basis, that tariff cut meant that CEB wouldn't be able to avoid any losses. So these cuts essentially, at least on a forward-looking basis, implied that losses would be run. Now, of course, these profits and losses by the electricity company depend on many factors, including the weather, the rain, and so forth. So what turns out ex post may be different from what happens ex ante. But this is a concern that we have, because it could mean that debt starts building up again in the electricity company that could ultimately become a contingent liability for the government. This is something that, of course, Sri Lanka has experienced before, and avoiding this and making sure that consumers on average pay for how much it costs to generate and distribute the electricity is an important part of the program. And this actually also goes towards answering the question of what are some of the main goalposts for the 4th review. So ensuring that cost reflective energy pricing is restored is, of course, a key part of what we would like to see for the next review. I should say there are some mechanisms that give us hope that this will happen automatically. There's the bulk supply transaction account, which is sort of a mechanism that is supposed to kick in when losses at CEB become too large, when their cash balances become negative beyond a certain value. Then there's meant to be an automatic increase in the tariff that would prevent these losses from accumulating. So there are already mechanisms in place. It's important that these mechanisms be allowed to function. And then, of course, at the next tariff setting, it's important to ensure that tariffs will once again be set to cover the costs. Another important issue for the next review will of course be the budget, that the budget that is finally passed at the end of this month is in fact consistent with the program parameters. So this is something that we will be watching very carefully. So those are two issues that may matter. The next mission, we expect to be visiting Colombo in the coming weeks or month or so. The exact dates will be announced closer to the time. With respect to the property tax, that is a property tax is very common in many countries. It is a form of wealth tax, whereby those who have more wealth, meaning more expensive homes, larger homes that are worth more, need to make larger contributions to the tax coffers and support the government. Now it had been discussed for quite some time previously, and in fact many preparations have been made under this program for property tax with respect to sales price and rents register and various databases to estimate the values of homes. So lots of preparations have been made. Then there were some concerns, and this goes towards the question with respect to the local authorities, how this tax could be raised and how it could be shared with at the central government level. So some of these issues still need to be resolved, and so this is something I think that is as yet to be addressed. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Peter, we can take a couple more questions because we are out of time. So we can take from Cicera, who has been waiting patiently. And then we have a couple of questions in the chat. So Cicera, please go ahead. We can't hear you. Cicera? Cicera, do you have a question? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my question is, what is the...
Your mic is a bit muffled.
Can you hear me?
Peter, can you hear him?
It's very, very soft. I don't know whether you can bring the mic closer to him.
Yeah, my question is, what is the projected impact of vehicle in Sri Lanka's foreign reserves?
I think the question is, what is the impact of the
vehicle
imports on reserves? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then we have a couple of questions here. Amal already asked the question, a supplementary question regarding what Asanta raised about vehicle imports, so it's the same topic. And then we have one from Ishara, even though the IMF program has put Sri Lanka's economy on the right track, a recent poverty study revealed that more than 50% of households are below the poverty line. Additionally, the central bank mentioned that brain drain could severely impact efforts to accelerate growth. In this scenario, how can Sri Lanka reach its anticipated IMF recovery targets? And these are the last questions of the press conference.
Thank you very much. So on the car imports, so yes, removing the import restrictions on car imports will allow cars to be imported, which means they have to be paid for, and so that could have an impact on the balance of payments. But as you know, there's a question to what extent the central bank should intervene to make those reserves available versus allowing the exchange rate to fluctuate in response to market forces. So that is something that remains to be seen, but maybe just to highlight the fact that reserves have increased significantly so far under the program. They have reached about half of the program objective already, which is very impressive. On the question with respect to the anticipated IMF recovery targets, so I think it's quite clear that things really have turned around significantly in Sri Lanka. I mean, you all live there, so you experience it much more than us. But when I first got to Sri Lanka in June 2022, everybody was standing in a line somewhere to get fuel, to get cooking gas, to get food or medications, and economic activity was very subdued. I think in real terms, Sri Lanka lost 10% or so of its economic activity as a result of this crisis. And since then, in the short amount of time that the program has been there, basically since 2023, it has already recovered 40% of the income it has lost in the preceding 5 years. So in a very short amount of time, you have already a very significant recovery. You have the most recent growth number of 5.5%. So I think things are turning around significantly in Sri Lanka, and that will have an impact on the indicators that we care about, such as poverty. So as economic opportunities return to Sri Lanka, incomes will increase and poverty will be reduced, and also it'll be more attractive to remain in Sri Lanka and not leave and emigrate, or those who have emigrated may find opportunities back in Sri Lanka again. So, as you look at our projections, we have increased these quite a bit for 2025 and beyond. And so, based on these, I would say I'm quite optimistic about the recovery in Sri Lanka.
I think we're out of time. Peter, if you guys have any further questions, please feel free to send them by email. We are always very responsive, or via WhatsApp. With that, I would like to thank our speakers, Peter, Katja, and Marta. And I would like to thank you all for participating in this press conference. We're going to be posting the recording and the transcript by tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.